So we have a dynamic duo for our next talk. So Nicolette D'Angelo is a writer, Gemini, and incoming PhD student at UCLA. Her primary research interests include the reception of ancient Greek medical ideas about the body, gender, and sexuality, with an eye especially to how these ideas are weaponized against queer identity formations today. She's a member of the Queer and the Classical team and currently lives in Philadelphia with her mouse and dog. Marcus Bell, they he, is a dancer, dyslexic, Virgo Sun, Leo Rising, and Taurus Moon. They love writing about dance, contemporary live art, and film, and their PhD project, Choreographing Tragedy at the Turn of the 21st Century, allows them to do just that. Joining up critical classical reception studies, queer studies, and choreographic practice, Marcus is pulling tarot cards from their kitchen in Oxford, UK. Their paper today is called Warp the Text, Glitch Philology, Arca, and SOPHIE. And just to flag some content warnings, they will share music videos that might contain potentially jarring noises and some visuals containing nudity. There will also be mentions of the tragic passing of Sophie. And I'm gonna hand it over to them now.
Okay, let's go. So Alejandra Garcia, known professionally as Arca, is a non-binary, trans, Venezuelan experimental producer, musician, composer, rapper, and DJ. Electra Rex is a single from Arca's 2021 album, Kick I, the third of 5 albums in the Kick Quintet, originally conceived as a tetralogy. Fitting within the larger project's name, bass-heavy kick drums accompany Arca's pixelated voice as it launches into a series of questions. Are you wildin' while we warp the text? Are you wildin' while we warp the text? Didn't we mention that we would fuck it up best? Here's the full song and music video, directed by Carlota Guerrero in the Plaza des Angels in Barcelona.
Marcus, I don't know if you share sounds as well. That might make the audio better. Sorry.
Yeah, Nicolette's sharing the video. I think we did hit share sound. I think it's just a bit glitchy, which is fitting. Maybe we can we'll move on, but we can like share a link to the video later. What do you think, Nicolette? Cool.
So Arca's call to warp the text, which fittingly was warped just now, is a serious injunction, one that seeks to disrupt and glitch multiple canons as our provocation wants to explore. As she described the intervention on her Instagram.
In alchemical terms, I propose a new archetype, a non-binary myth updated for the present and future in service of non-binary modes of relating to Greek tragedy. If Oedipus Rex kills the father and inadvertently has sex with the mother, and Electra is the opposite, killing the mother and inadvertently having sex with the father, Electra Rex is the union of masculine and feminine. It kills both mother and father and has sex with itself. The hermetic androgyny is recognition of both the ancestral and futuristic, a merger possible because of the similarities.
This is in many ways a continuation of Arca's existing preoccupations with tragedy, hinted at in interviews and exemplified by songs like Medea 2020 and arguably Family Violence 2015. But here in forging a non-binary mythical complex and schema, Arca seeks to remix the terms of classical myth beyond recognition as well as their Freudian applications. By destroying the conceptual frames of normative myths, which us classicists usually bring to Electra's and Oedipus story, Electra Rex re-embodies tragedy for modern day queers who no longer want to depend on the mother or father, e.g. the retroactive ancestorship of classical queers or the production of neoliberal revisionist narratives of queer history to make claims for liberation in the here and now.
This process of assembling sound, body, and noise is not unique to Arca, as a producer of maximalist, hyper, and glitch pop aesthetics. Arca belongs to a pantheon of trans artists who embrace rather than refute the inherent glitchiness of language, of art, of movement, and of identity. This movement was perhaps best embodied in, by, and through the creative work of the late visionary and icon SOPHIE, whose passing brings new meanings to the tragedy which SOPHIE's collaborator Arca engages.
SOPHIE glitched pop and dance music in 2013 with the release of BIP, an elasticated cyber pop that promised to, quote, make us feel if you let me. With the sounds of cyborg drive belts and exploding coon sculptures and latex balloons, SOPHIE's invective address invited queers to taste, feel, and dance a new sound and new ways of organizing in the club and the bedroom. SOPHIE continued to release tracks that glitch the harmonic, textural, and social assemblages of music production and consumption. Tracks you might know like Lemonade, MSMSM, and Hard, before releasing the 2018 album Oil of Every Pearl's Uninsides, on which tracks like Immaterial widely have been lauded as what the future of gender and transness sound like. Alongside SOPHIE's production work, the field-shifting musician has obviously produced also for giants like Charlie XCX, Vince Staples, and even Madonna. Yet her efforts went unseen by many outside of PC music and queer experimental art spaces until her passing. Likewise, Arca has produced for Bjork, Kanye West, FKA Twigs, and more.
Both Arca and SOPHIE have made music often described as boundary-pushing and ahead of its time, but their incalculable contributions to the music world don't function by progressing, innovating, or advancing pop music on a linear, temporal track. They instead rely on its failure. Indeed, glitch pop as a musical genre has been said to rely intentionally on, and I quote, an aesthetic of failure since the early aughts, prefiguring Jack Halberstam's queer formulation.
Our work in progress today, therefore, wants to think with and through the figure of the glitch as failure, as philology, and as embodied within trans, non-binary, and genderqueer performance. More specifically, we propose glitch philology as a kind of virtual choreopolitics, a combination of kinetics and politics, and as a set of practices that queer artists employ to refuse binary worlds and disrupt the conditions that invisibilize queer contributions to the mainstream. In doing so, we hope to heed Arca's instructions to let our hips go wild and figure dance in the body as non-textual sites of glitch philology. We want to decenter text, do away with traditional meaning, and seek an alternative choreopolitics. And in proposing this glitch philology, we aim to extend two existing lines of queer inquiry: Ella Haselsworth's deep les philology on the one hand, and Legacy Rutschel's glitch feminism. So first, Ella Haselsworth's speculative work toward a deep les philology, which she has explored in a 2021 QATC seminar and has revisited in several talks since. In Haselsworth's own words, deep les philology, quote, posits a trans-inclusive incarnation of radical lesbian identity as a mode of relating to antiquity without minimizing difference. It therefore starts with the idea that queers are in many ways natural-born philologists. We learn early to decode secret languages, intimate and imagine messages, communications across the lonely expanse, and create art against the grain. This experience leads Hasselworth to glitching the most traditional of philological forms: the apparatus criticus, the commentary, the concordance, lexicography. Most recently, you could find the method of deep les philology on display in Hasselworth's chapter on the unstable textuality of Euripides, Iphigenia, and Alice for the forthcoming 2022 volume for Euripides. In this chapter, fittingly titled Perhaps Not, Hasselworth shows that interpretive escape routes emerge from the very instability of the transmitted ancient text, or perhaps from any text that, like a ship of Theseus, finds itself subjected to queer gaps, doubling, substitutions, and immense editorial suspicion. Surveying philologist attempts to explain away queer desire in a text as uncertain as Iphigenia and Alice, Hasselworth creates something like a sapphic fragment by collaging together various scholars' emendations, which you can see at the bottom of the screen here, to objectionable content in the play labeled as perhaps Euripidean, perhaps not Euripidean, hardly Euripidean, or definitively not Euripidean. The editors of Queer Euripides state in the volume's introduction that Hasselworth's chapter demonstrates how queer readings, quote, can unravel philology's normative desire to reconstitute, recreate tragic form, unquote. However, it seems to us to be precisely the nature of philology, as Hasselworth's larger Deep Les project shows, to already do this unraveling work of itself in the first place, to queerly undo itself. The philological in its striving toward the normative cannot help but misfire. It cannot help but literally warp the text at every opportunity. Its only claim to objectivity as a method, thus is perhaps only the philologist's attempts to rationalize their process and hide the seams. For a philologist, the options are always a choose your own adventure of cut, paste, run in Hasselworth's formulation. Hence, quote, philological practice is always to some extent a slow, deep art of collaborative cut and paste, the evaluation and arrangement of sources that always represent, at best, a highly mediated view of antiquity, unquote.
We think it not coincidental that Hasselschwardt has reached these conclusions about philology more generally as a scholar of tragedy. Her insights dovetail with recent studies of tragedy from queer, post-colonial, and performance studies perspectives, pointing to the need for a non-binary, anti-Occidental, disidentificatory approach to tragedy that, we might suggest, be specifically situated outside of classics. As Hans Thies Lehrman writes of tragic experience, it, and I quote, inherently concerns overstepping that, though always a different and modulated, derives normalized consciousness of its mourning. So it inherently concerns overstepping that, though always different and modulated, deprives normalized consciousness of its mooring. Cultural intelligibility is dealt a shock. Similarly, Atto Quason characterizes tragedy as inherently disputatious, not referring, and I quote, just to disputes between characters, but to the often violent processes of historical and social transition that engender such disputes in the first place. That is, the unruly affective economies that mark the characters' fractured sense of their place in society. These ideas and works seem not to belong to a strictly classicist conception of tragedy, but rather a field we might provisionally call tragedy studies. In tragedy studies, tragic experience is understood as, by, through, and in a breach, as transgression, a sibling to the glitch. Like Hasselschwardt shows, tragedy glitches word and world, time and place, character and identity. We can think of tragic experience in this way as a faulty algorithm, always outputting something a click to the left of our field of vision. This tragic proximity to error and transgression is part of what we want to draw out today, and what philologists must own as an essential component of their work.
But what might it mean to be a glitch philologist, to riff off Hasselschwardt? Glitch philologists clearly do not want to fix glitches and tragedies, because that is, we do not want to succeed within oppressive capitalist algorithms of the present binary social order or in classics. But what does it look like to embrace the very practices of warping, hacking, and ghosting the received knowledges that allow for queer lives to flourish?
And here we want to extend our second thread and turn to Legacy Russell's Glitch Feminism and Manifesto. As a cybercultural artist, Russell rejects digital dualism, the idea that real and virtual or digital can ever truly be separated, to argue for glitching as a queer activist and artistic practice. The glitch, for Russell, is a calculated failure of gender, and quote, to prompts the violent socio-cultural machine to hiccup, shudder, sigh, and buffer. Russell comes to the glitch by first reflecting on her formative years in queer virtual spaces, especially chat rooms. And here Russell articulates the queer performative becomings with which many of us, who grow up as companion species with the internet, might be familiar. She writes,
Lovepunk12 as a chat room handle was a nascent performance. I was a young body, Black, female identifying, femme, queer. The world around me never let me forget these identifiers. Yet online I could be whoever I wanted. Online I found my first connection to the gendered swagger of ascendancy, the thirsty drag of aspiration, my female transmogrified. I set out to explore man, to expand woman. I toyed with power dynamics. In chat rooms, I donned different corpo realities while the rainbow wheel of death buffered in the ecstatic dawdling jam of AOL dial-up.
Russell calls for us to understand that the away from keyboard or AFK body is the material form of, and I quote, an idea that has no form, an assemblage that is abstract. The body AFK is in fact not separable from, but co-constituted by, the virtual body. Throughout the manifesto, Russell looks to queer, trans, and BIPOC performances that enact this looping and multiplication of the self. Glitch feminism calls on E. Jane, Juliana Huxtable, Sondra Perry, Boychild, Victoria Sin, and Kia LaBeija, and so amplifies glitch's various functions and modalities. The glitch refuses, the glitch is cosmic, the glitch throws shade, the glitch ghosts, which we will return to. It is error, it encrypts, it is antibody, it is skin, it is virus, it mobilizes, it is remix, it survives.
Russell, like Hasselschwardt, is also really interested in the figure of the glitch as a cut, or cut and paste, or a cut and stitch. I'll skip some of this right now for time, but for her, the act of cutting is an intrusion of alterity, shocking the larger hegemonic system and allowing for broader structural change. In light of the cuts shock, Russell proposes that if the act of gender defining as dictated by the binary cuts deeply, it is our self-definition that manifests a stitch and begins the process of healing. In an interview magazine conversation with performance artist Marina Abramovich, Arca likewise prefers to think of transness as embracing this kind of cut, as not a pathology or transitioning as a response to a system, or not about trying to fix a glitch. For her, it is rather the manifestation of an expression and a lifelong journey that cis people rarely admit to or allow themselves to experience. Glitch or the cut presents an opportunity, a change from routine that allows queer people a real chance at living.
And although Russell doesn't center musicians and producers like Arca in glitch feminism, she and Sophie are both artists who glitch the normative algorithmic hegemony perpetrated by the Apple Music and Spotify extended universe, and glitch the human technological and gender binaries. They don't use AI and cybernetics so much as they collaborate together, becoming in companion with one another. We can see this in Arca's project Rikiki Bronze Instances 1 to 100, which she created with the AI system Bronze, which Arca has referred to as an intelligent sentience. Here, the two artists work together to generate 100 continuous looping reiterations of the song Rikiki, forming a dynamic, ever-transforming representation of itself. This cosmic time-exploding glitch continuously loops and bottoms out the temporal limits of a single song, and there's a paradoxical protest here against the demands for music to be consumable or cut into bite-sized TikTok audios and choruses, algorithmically perfected products. Russell similarly explores the double-edged sword of AI sentience, repeating throughout the manifesto a central thesis of Black feminist technology studies, which is that algorithms and AI, originally programmed by humans, do often repeat the structural hierarchies and violences of racist capitalism, seen most recently in the NFTs and crypto, but Arca shows that it's possible for glitch philologists to work with technology to imagine otherwise.
Another example of this is, of course, Sophie's video for face shopping, in which a computer-generated model of the artist's face distorts, wobbles, and warps, performing a hyper-realized expression of music in the glitch between the body online and the body AFK. Face shopping exemplifies how glitch bodies rework encrypting traces of ourselves, and our understanding of what's possible in both the physical and digital realms change. We can use glitch precisely to thwart tech designed to hurt us, out us, and surveil us. Consequently, Arca and Sophie's glitch feminism, we might say, proposes an alternative query politics in the online AFK loop. Like Russell, they flirt with the shutter, the twitch, the loop, but also contact between piston and spine, motor oil and spit, demonic and hermetic, sonic and haptic. Their work asks for us to attune ourselves to the alchemical as well as the cosmic.
And Arca's Electra Rex synthesizes this combination. So if we turn back to the music video, I'll just comment on a few of kind of those images in choreographic and sonic terms, but particularly want to reflect back onto this non-binary mode of engaging with tragedy. So choreographically here, we can see an example of the video where horizontal lines fracture into parallel duplicates. There's a virtuosic solo that Arca performs where a body catches on, returns to, and turns around itself. And then in a later sequence, when she is formed part of a kind of group of queers gathered together on the floor, she moves and judders, intoning the glitch meter of tragic embodied poetics. Orally in the song, we can hear the stuttering industrial rave sounds and broken kick drum beats, which crack open against her synthetic ethereal vocals. Arca warps and bends almost recognizable noises, which index the grinding of machinery. And at several points, the song phase shifts between genre, meter, style, and time signature, each new section blowing the walls off and folding into the space of the last. In terms of cinematography, the camera indexes both the analog, old-school tech and filtered digital social media footage, blurring form and materiality. Then in an edit, a jump cut, which is initiated when Arca takes hold of the camera and hold of us, the viewer, which is in the kind of last epilogue section after the music has ended in the video. We are kind of disoriented again as time and space kind of collapse. And then just to comment on that kind of queer chorus of bodies that form in public space, a kind of glitch of the normativity, with their embodied histories of protest, intimacy, joy, and collective work. They ghost on or ghost linear time, and as they are the kind of ancestral and futuristic group organized around the affects of the song and its promises to fuck it up best and let our hips go. Behind them with Electra Rex, they've gathered to celebrate in ecstasy, to protest, mourn, and to hold open the gateway for the arrival of emergent queer world on the horizon.
I'm pretty sure we're just at time, so I'm just going to finish this real fast, Marcus. But yeah, so I mean, it was tempting when we first thought of doing this paper to let classics dominate the frame of the video, to read Arca in kind of an internal loop of classism. But today we attempted the opposite, to use classics as the vehicle, the instrument for reading Arca, and through Arca, SOPHIE, for accessing and dealing with grief, the glitch as ghosting in a different way. So we want to end on this specific connotation of glitch as ghosting or haunting. And Marcus can definitely say more about this in the Q&A. As Madhur Umachandran argued in her keynote last year, the proximity of the queer and the classical is one that we choose to craft if we want to choose it at all. We see the glitch as a tool already embedded in philological theory and practice that we can use to ghost the algorithm of the classical, reveal its inner workings, and frustrate its feedback loops. We can take what we want, what we need, and warp the rest. Thank you.